Hey everybody, Coach BK here. Today's chat is going to be on kind of the intersection of blood sugar management and hormones. It's a rather large topic. It's one that is very complex, has a lot of cart and horse type conversations, and then so we're adding into it female, maybe a little bit older for most of us, and then also endurance training and the idea of healing these systems as well as properly fueling for endurance training. So this first video is just kind of an overview, and then we're going to try to piece it together. I don't want to make this complicated, but I do want to get out information on how to monitor and manage, improve the blood sugar management system, which when you say that and happens, you are going to be making good improvements on your endocrine system and your hormone system as well, because they are so closely related. The reason why I feel that it's important to understand this information and even take some proactive steps to test it, watch it, is because it's not hard, but it's a very definitive kind of testing your fasting glucose is easy, inexpensive, and it tells you a lot of good things as far as, yes, I'm making changes, no, I'm not making changes, etc. Okay? But don't let yourself become overwhelmed, and if you feel that you are confused, just message me, let me know, and I can follow up with other information, as my mind knows what my mind knows, and some things make sense, and so I'm going to try to talk to you guys from a beginner point of view and not understanding this stuff necessarily, but if you have any questions, please feel free to say, hey, can you provide clarification on X, Y, and Z? So here we go. In a nutshell, you know, when you eat your food, your digestion starts in your mouth. We have talked about that with the enzymes. We'll talk more about that. But when food enters the digestive system, the brain and the nervous system and everything start working together, and the pancreas finds out, here's about the fact that you are eating. And so the pancreas sends out insulin to prep the cells to be able to uptake the sugar that is going to, the glucose that's going to be in your bloodstream. So one important fact, one important comment is that when we talk about sugar, we need to understand that that is how the body fuels itself, from glucose, sugar. Sugar is not bad. Processed crap is bad. Sugar is, or glucose, is what you do to burn fuel, period. Okay? So understanding that is important. Continuing on, the pancreas is sending out insulin to prep the cells. Each cell has a receptor for insulin. So insulin's a hormone. It's going to go pop onto a cell and tell it to do something, okay? And then the cell is going to be like, oh, yum, 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 here's the sugar, glucose, I'm going to do what I need to be doing, etc. So all of your cells are little energy cells. Your legs, when I talk about heart rate-based training and creating more mitochondria for more generators for muscle cells, muscle fibers and whatnot, I got to think about everything in terms of energy and firing and things. I mean, it just doesn't magically happen, okay? So when the pancreas hears that the insulin levels are going down, meaning, you know, sugar's getting into the cells and stuff like that, pancreas then sends out glucagon to turn that down, so to turn that off, because the body is trying to maintain a certain amount of blood sugar, glucose, in the bloodstream at all times. A properly functioning person is going to have a razor sharp fight and flight system, again, hormones, and glucose is required in the bloodstream to be instant like that. So, you know, you never know when a saber-toothed tiger is going to come behind you and try to eat you, okay? But so that's why it's trying to maintain this constant kind of readiness level. Okay, so this is why this insulin glucagon kind of balance goes on. We talk about electrolyte, and it's very similar. Sodium causes a muscle to contract. Magnesium causes it to magnesium and potassium cause it to turn off. Things get flipped on, they have to intentionally be flipped off. It doesn't just magically happen. So that's what's going on here, this dance between insulin to pull sugar into the cell, glucagon to help the cell stop taking sugar in. So when those systems get off, you get the hypo or hyperglycemia conditions, which lead to X, Y, and Z not feeling good, being overweight, etc., etc. So this is why this blood sugar management idea is very fundamental for weight loss and endurance and fueling yourself properly. Okay, here we go. So I hope that kind of primes you up a little bit for the rest of this conversation. So when things go sideways, when the cells don't take up sugar and it stays in the bloodstream, the cells aren't getting what they need. You have too much glucose in the bloodstream. The term insulin resistance, you're going to hear more about it soon. So you hear about diabetes. Insulin resistance is the precursor to diabetes. So it goes insulin resistance, diabetes, and then metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome is terrible and bad and kills you. Diabetes, it's, very devastating long-term. Insulin resistance is a precursor of that. And, kind of the problem is that our tests right now really aren't telling us enough about if we do have insulin resistance and whatnot. Okay, so insulin resistance is a term that's used to describe when the blood sugar management system is off. Insulin is being sent out, but the cells are ignoring it. So remember, the cell has a little keyhole. Insulin comes in, tells it to do something, and then the cell goes, shoop, give me some glucose. So you have insulin there. It's just that the cell is resistant to it. It's going, la, 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 I'm not listening, okay? So you can think about it like a traffic jam where the ambulance or whatever is not getting through. Mild insulin resistance often gets overlooked because you can have insulin resistance and your fasting glucose still be kind of in the acceptable range. The further conversation with that is a lot of the times the doctors are looking for really sick, or the tests or the computer is trying to evaluate for a certain number. So 95 is a pre-diabetic number for fasting glucose, where they say, the smarties are now saying anything over 85, 80 can be a sign of mild issues. And when you have the mild issues, you are still suffering from low levels damage of your blood sugar system being off. This is important because your blood sugar management system is an indication of a bigger problem, more endocrine issues that have a lot of other different effects. That's why learning how to manage your blood sugar, learning how to watch for changes with that is a nice in-your-face telltale sign. Just a second. Julie, stop it. So, dog. So it's complex, but just kind of think about, okay, it's important to do. I'm going to focus on blood sugar management. We're going to talk about how in just a second. So when your blood sugar management system, this insulin resistance starts and gets a little bit worse, the main players in this system are the liver, the muscles, and fat tissue. And so when this gets negatively impacted, like fat tissue produces estrogen, and so then it becomes kind of a runaway train. And then if we add in what we're really trying to talk about in endurance training and fueling properly, your liver is really important for all of this stuff, and your muscles are as well. So you can kind of see how this has a big tie in your performance in endurance training and then long-term health. Okay. Another thing to really kind of bring up, which kind of makes it mind-boggling, sort of cool and sort of not, is that the brain also gets affected by this blood sugar management, this insulin resistance as well. The brain is very sensitive to blood sugar. The brain really does a lot of things and needs fuel all the time. This is where that whole fight or flight kind of conversation, where it is trying to maintain a certain level of blood sugar in there in order for it to be able to do stuff. And we're doing a lot of stuff. Things that get affected when insulin resistance enters the picture in terms of the brain is issues around food intake, wanting more, etc., etc. Body weight issues, reproduction, learning, and memory. All of that stuff gets in fact impacted because the brain is being affected. Okay, so the brain is controlling all of this stuff. Early symptoms of kind of having this insulin resistance where you're affecting your brain and cognitive stuff is feeling brain fog, unfocused, scatterbrained. It's just kind of an early sign that things are going a little bit sideways. Okay. So, OMG, we already talked about insulin resistance leading to diabetes and then leading to metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome, they're calling it a big serious deal, leading to stroke, heart disease, and one of the leading causes of death. Okay, so it just becomes a runaway train when, it starts with insulin resistance. We're not catching the small little clues. It becomes diabetes, pre-diabetes. You're already suffering a lot of endocrine issues, a lot of just once you start getting endocrine issues, the endocrine system and the hormones balance everything. So your sleep is off, you're depressed, okay? That's why we need to ratchet it back to the very basics, and that is, what's blood sugar management doing right now? Okay. Symptoms of insulin resistance: fatigue, brain fog, belly fat, sleepiness after meals, sugar cravings, especially after meals. And the link is going to have all this information and some other links. Signs that things have progressed to diabetes: increased thirst, frequent urination, poor healing of cut and wounds. And please note that not having enough phytonutrients will also do that, like zinc specifically, your immune system. But this is a sign that everything is starting to kind of really get affected. Increased hunger, unexplained weight loss, and fasting glucose that's around 120 or higher on average consistently. So they're saying pre-diabetic is like 90, 95. Insulin resistance is below that, higher than 80, 85. But it's also what is happening with your blood sugar throughout the day. When you get up after, fasting, not eating all night. After you've eaten, what happens? They have all special words. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. What happens immediately after? What happens like half an hour after, an hour after, 2 hours after, 3 hours after? All of this tells you very positive pinpointed information on what's going on with your blood sugar management system. Okay. They say criteria for metabolic syndrome is having 3 or more of the following: high triglyceride levels. This is why it's important to get your blood tests back. And when they say, hey, everything's fine, you need to look at your numbers and to understand, because a lot of the times computers are looking over this stuff and flagging things, and maybe the computer doesn't know you and doesn't know that you have mentioned to your doctor that you got sleepy after you eat, and so they're not really kind of looking at the subclinical what's off. They're looking at the person's kind of dying, and medical insurance needs to do something right now about it. Anyway, high triglycerides, you're looking for 3 of these. Abdominal obesity, meaning you are carrying most of your weight in the abdominal area, which a lot of us are. It's that apple-shaped thing. High blood pressure, high fasting blood sugar, and low HDL, cortisol levels. HDL is your good cholesterol. Okay. Some other things that are related to insulin resistance, and just think about insulin resistance as your blood sugar management system / endocrine system isn't working right. But I just am trying to give you a nutshell of why all of this stuff is related and why we care and why we need to kind of like pause, learn about it a little bit, see where we fit into this game. Ask your doctor better questions. See if you need to do some more activity on this. PCOS, they say, is a form of metabolic syndrome. The cysts on the ovaries and stuff like that. The cysts on the ovaries aren't actually the big problem. The problem is the metabolic changes that are kind of causing that. So PCOS, the cysts on the ovaries, are a sign that your endocrine system and your blood sugar management system are way off. It gets to be a runaway train because then you get a little bit more overweight. Fat tissue produces estrogen. You become estrogen dominant. And it just snowballs on itself. PMS, directly affected by insulin resistance. We're going to talk more about that. And then later, thyroid hormone imbalance issues. Very interesting. High levels of insulin can cause the thyroid to malfunction, as well as hyper or hypothyroidism can have an impact on insulin and the whole blood sugar management system, again, with the storm thingy. Okay, and then another thing they added, gestational diabetes related to insulin resistance. So more fun facts blazing through here. Estrogen weight increases insulin resistance. That's where it gets into a snowball effect. Excess weight also increases estrogen. See how these two things are going around. Excess weight is a little bit harder for the heart, right? Because your body has to support. I mean, your fat cells aren't just like benign, whatever. They have blood circulation and whatnot, and all of that. So not only does estrogen mess with our heart rate training, but being overweight will mess with our heart rate training. So while we need to love ourselves and all of that stuff and be glorious about our body, the scale does matter, and where your fat is matters a lot because of all of this stuff that we're talking about. Weight loss improves insulin resistance and estrogen dominance. So let's talk about fat loss, not necessarily weight loss. Weight loss, yes, but the loss of that belly fat, that visceral fat, is really important. There's some links on hyper and hypoglycemia and some more information on blood sugar on the link provided with the video. So what I'm telling you guys is that your blood sugar management is so closely related to your hormone endocrine system. We can watch blood sugar management daily. We can watch hormone system, monthly as we're going through our cycles, and there's some other things that you can look for. But we are going to progress forward in this month with more of managing blood sugar, making corrections with that in a nice way that doesn't throw the body off balance. This is probably one of the reasons, one of the driving factors with people doing keto and whatnot. It's a way to push the body into trying to fix this system, but there's a fine balance here, because if your system is off and you push it more, it has other mechanisms to manage energy and whatnot, but those other systems might feed into this snowball thing too, and we'll talk more about that later. But so blood sugar management, your fasting glucose in the morning is a cut and dry thing. It's easy to test, and I'm going to show you how to test it and show you what to buy. It's super duper easy. You can get this stuff at Walgreens. It doesn't need to sound kind of like rocket science. It's really easy. So anyway, let me know if you guys have any questions about the beginning parts of this. It's a large topic, so we're going to kind of break it down this week, and this month, and we're going to practice. And I'm going to give you some things to do this, and then you can PDF that to me. So anyway, there you go on blood sugar management, energy management.